Hey, welcome to another typology interview. We have Janett. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Here, I don't know if you want to restart, but my name is actually Janett.
Janett. We won't restart.
Yes.
It's okay. I make
Okay.
mistakes. It happens. We're all good.
Yeah, I just didn't
I
want you to go
apologize for
through the
that.
whole
Yeah.
interview with the wrong
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. Cool. So let's hear a little bit about your background in typology just before we start.
Um, well, it's not that interesting, I don't think, anyway.
Well,
Um,
it is.
I kind of got into typology a bit a few years ago, and I read one of the books by Myers and Briggs, and completely confused me. The I thought it would be more straightforward, but it just seemed like all of the terms were muddied and uh, IJP stuff was all so weird to me. And so I was just like, okay, well, if somebody tells me their type, then I can kind of understand. But there's no chance in this world that I could be able to type somebody, like be like, oh, you're this type. Is
Right.
But during that time, I had subscribed to the Dave Superpowers channel. And so when he started back up with the OP system, it was very interesting to me. And I really enjoyed watching. And so I eventually decided that I wanted to join the class. And it's been it's been a ride. I have been very interested in the things that I've learned.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Did you know your type before you got typed, or
no.
no? You were off by a little bit.
No, by a lot.
Okay.
So I always typed as an ENFP. One time I typed as an ENFJ, and
Okay.
when I was learning new things, I thought that maybe I was an ENTP. That was wrong by a lot. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to
Um,
give too much away though.
yeah. Yeah. Did you agree with your type in the end? Do you see your parts?
Yeah, I see my parts. There's one part where I've had kind of a hard time accepting it,
Right.
but at the same time, I look at my life and I'm like, oh, what that function? Like, because if I take a step back from my assumptions, I can kind of see it all over the place.
Right. Okay. Cool. So I'm not getting a blast last from you.
No, not blast last.
No. And I'm getting maybe some sort of FE up there in your saviors.
hmm
First or second? Yeah.
First,
First.
yeah,
There we go. Okay. Oh, EJ. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your EJ experience. Like, do you need that validation? Is that something that's
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It's been a ride. Um, So I had an experience at the end of high school that sort of just demolished my sense of self, as fragile as it was. And so I spent years where I was like constantly degrading myself in front of people to get them to build me up.
hmm
Then I was in a situation where I was with this girl all the time, like 24/7. And she started saying things like, well, if that's what you think, then maybe it's true.
Oh, wow.
Or, yeah, or, maybe you should stop complaining about that and do something about it. Or,
Wow.
and then at the
How did
end,
that go over?
not very well.
Okay.
At the end, she asked me, she was like, I like you. I don't know why you work so hard to make people hate you.
Huh.
Um, so that experience got me to turn around and start saying, okay, I can't depend on other people to be my sense of self for
Right.
me. I have to be able to rely on my own self worth. And so it's sort of hard. I still talk about myself a lot, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah. When you were degrading yourself, you were doing it so like specifically so that people could give you a compliment, like say it's not true, sort of thing. To pro.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So yeah.
So do you do things for others for the validation as well? Is that something you're chasing, that cookie all the time too?
Um, yes, I've had that as well. I've had a few situations. I had a roommate where um, she essentially borrowed my credit on a bunch of things. We had a store credit and at a couple of places. I bought a car that she used. And anyway, I ended up in mucho debt
Right.
after that. Um, I think that's the most extreme example
Was it
of.
hard for you to say no, or what was the problem? Or you just wanted them to like you?
It was hard for me to say no. She came from a really rough background,
Okay.
and I really wanted to see her succeed.
Uh-huh.
And so I think she learned pretty early on that if she framed it in a need based format, that I couldn't say no. If
Wow.
she like, but I need this, so the car was, I need this to get to work.
Uh-huh.
And we bought a bed because we had been sleeping on couches. Um, and so she said, I need this because of my knee injury.
Right.
And once it was framed in that context, I just couldn't bring myself to say that it wasn't necessary.
Wow. Like, and that's a savior too, that you, yeah. So like, is that feminine then because of that, or because
Oh
like I
yeah,
wasn't getting feminine? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's definitely a very feminine, um, extroverted decider.
Okay. All
I
right.
have a hard time pushing against people. It's something I've been working on more.
Right.
My family often says that I, especially as when I was younger, was a bit of a chameleon where I would just kind of morph into whoever I spent the most time around.
Right. Is that still the same now, or you're sort of connecting to your inner truth?
A little bit of both. I think my family thinks I have molded to my husband quite a
Right.
bit, which is, I'd say, probably true, but he
Yeah.
works very hard. He has TE, and so his extroverted decider takes care of my introverted decider and makes sure that I am being true to my own reasons and my own thinking.
Okay. Interesting. Um, do you find that your values are more developed than others? Do you see the spectrum of values around you at all times?
Yeah, I do see the spectrum of values. In fact, it's kind of difficult sometimes because I see what I believe, but I also see how people disagree with me, and I see, so it's hard to push back on people because I can see where they're coming from at the same
Mhm.
time.
Right.
And I don't want to offend them, obviously. That's one of the big things.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm not getting a lot of NE from you. That's usually something I can see. Is that right? Or
Yes, I
okay.
I thought, since I believed I was an ENFP or an ENTP, I thought that I had loads of NE. I thought I was
Okay.
such a creative person and so random, and I am not. That's been one of the things that's been hard to accept, is
Uh-huh.
that I am not nearly as um,
Scatterbrained.
scatterbrained or spontaneous as
Right.
I had imagined myself to be.
Okay. So then you have NI, um, or
No,
SI.
SI.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I got you. Interesting. So you do have any then in your stack?
I do have any in my
All right.
stack.
Okay, I'm
I
just
mean,
not getting a lot of it.
David Chan could be wrong. Who
Right.
knows? But
Uh-huh. So you're lead blast then?
yes, I am lead blast.
So you're ESFJ,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
That's
Tell me a
right.
little bit about blast first. Are you starting things all the time? You're always starting new things. You not afraid to jump into the action to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, to a certain extent, that would be accurate. That's one of the reasons why I thought it was any, was because I start a lot of things and I don't finish a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, it's because I've got a lot of front end power where I'm like, I want to just jump in and do everything all at once, and then it just fizzles out super fast.
Right. Yeah.
Where I just don't have a lot of the stamina to deal with
Uh-huh.
continuing on.
And I'm
I'd
not.
say,
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
oh, I'd say another thing on my blast is that I share a lot. Like Dave and Shan's description of you're reading a book and you have to like set it down to go tell the nearest person about what you just read. That's me to a T. Like I can't read a book without
Right.
just like talking the ear off of my husband. He's and to the point though he's like, well, now I don't have to read that book because I basically just learned everything that's in it from you.
Right. Interesting. Um, I'm not getting play second. I'm getting sleep. So that would make you sleep second. But is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
All
right.
right. Yeah. Play might be third, but you were talking about reading books, so we'll, we'll see what we get to. So then that means your SI is double activated,
Yes.
and it's your second function. Are you aware of your SI? Is it something that's
Yeah, so I've become more aware. It's the SI that has been difficult for me to accept. But then I look at things like um, in our last place, my husband put up a pegboard and I organized everything in our kitchen. And I loved that pegboard. And I always put everything right back where it went. And it stayed so organized. And so I look at that and I'm like, oh, what a SI.
uh-huh.
Or, I organize our kids' toys, or, there's a lot of different things where I'm like, oh, here it is again that I'm
So
doing it.
yeah, do you see that you're organizing sensory? Is that something that's prevalent in your life, like organizing objects, or is it organizing your past, or is it what is that? How does that work for you?
I'd say organizing my past is one that I've come back to.
Okay.
Organizing the details of things that happened,
Mm-hmm.
going over them. I've thought of it as like panning for gold, where
Oh,
my
okay.
SI just goes over the same information over and over again until this little like NE nugget jumps out, and I'm like, oh, look, I have NE because I
Uh-huh.
learned this,
Right.
but I'm ignoring the amount of time that I'm spending going over this same information, reviewing this interaction with somebody, trying to figure out what happened, or
Right.
yeah.
And what about the objects in your environment and things like that? Do you have any sort of OCD tendencies where you're organizing stuff, or?
On a minor level, I am not the cleanest person
Okay.
that you will meet. um, it's been a trial for me. It's something that has been a problem for the people that are close to me in my life.
So you don't feel
Um,
responsible for organizing the sensory around you?
um, I think one of the best things to describe it was when I was a teenager, there would be people that were like, oh, you need to learn how to clean. And
Mhm.
I would respond with, I know how to clean, I just don't want to.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so you can see why I would be reluctant to accept SI,
Yeah.
but then there are things where I can see it. Like as an adult, I discovered list making. And so when I'm in a really tight bind, like my kids, I have like 3 kids melting down all at once. I just make a list in my head and I'm like, okay, these things need to be done in this order. And if I stick to this list, then at the end, all of my kids will be happy and I can just ignore them and their meltdowns while I finish the list because they'll be taken care of by the end.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. That doesn't sound like a savior SI.
It could be Savior NI.
Okay.
My husband, I believe, has Savior SI.
All right.
And so it could be because I adopt what the people around me, that some of the things that Dave and Shan were picking up on were things that I had adopted from my husband.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, we'll talk about your intuition in a bit and see what kind of intuition it is more. Are the details personal to you? Are the things that your past, the things you've perceived over your lifetime, is it very personal, or is it objective in your point of view?
I'm not sure. I would think maybe my gut instinct is to say that it's personal, but I'm not sure. I try to keep an open mind and to, with new information, adjust my thinking about things. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Interesting. So your sensory is more feminine then?
I do think my sensory, based on their descriptions of on memory,
Right.
I think sensory is a masculine sensory.
Masculine sensory.
But because like in my audio, Dave said that test would be, can I pull up where I was on Christmas of whatever year? And Christmas is pretty easy because I've been in the same place.
Right.
But I was able to fairly easily figure out where I was on the 4th of July for the past 10 years.
Huh. It's interesting. No, because I think also masculine intuition, if it's a savior, it can also have a good memory, because like you'll remember the patterns and you can regenerate, I guess, those sensory details based on the intuition that you've gathered, or organized in your case, in whatever.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, SI is the one part of my typing that it's been kind of hard to swallow.
Right.
And so I was actually kind of hoping that if that was not quite right, that you would be able to pick up on that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that Dave and Shan pointed to with typing me as SI were things that happened as a joint effort between me and my husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Me trying to imitate him to reinforce my own weaknesses.
I'm not getting play last from you either. So is that right that your play is third?
No, actually they got me as play last.
Okay. Because I'm not getting it. I'm not getting a play last from you. Yeah, you are pingy. I don't know if you have. Is your hobby more consuming, or your hobby's more? I don't know, bouncing ideas off of people and getting things done. Also, that would put you energy dominant or info dominant. Like that would be the differentiator there too.
Yeah, I would put myself more as info dominant than energy dominant. So my hobbies are, I do watch a lot of videos. I read a few books. The hobby I choose to do is I volunteer with a children's choir, and I make the YouTube videos, the lyric videos for the kids to practice with. And I go and help with rehearsal. I sing along with them and help them at performances and stuff.
Interesting. So if you have play last, are you aware of your conserving energy all the time, or you're not really aware of it? You'll expend energy for the information.
Oh, I will definitely expend energy for the information.
Okay.
I have to be aware of, it's something I've learned through my life, that I have to pull back on that leap blast desire to just go and do everything.
Uh-huh.
because I know that I will drain myself really fast, and then I won't be able to function for a few days if I try and do too much all at once.
So what you have is the most introverted EJ possible, if that's what you got typed as.
Yeah, they typed me as a glass
Yeah.
lizard.
Yeah. So it's the most introverted possible. And that would make you double activated on your TI as well.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, so when you're gathering things, do you know if it's gathering sensory or gathering intuition?
I think it's gathering intuition. The books, it took me a long time actually to get into reading books,
Right.
because it takes a lot for a fantasy book to, or like a novel, to get my attention. But I discovered that my favorite kind of book is actually self-help books.
Okay.
That I love reading about how to improve and how to, you know, I get the feel goods. I think it's really good
Yeah.
for my SLP to learn about how to set boundaries, how to take care of myself, how to.
And when you're gathering information from the self-help, are you putting them into like a system, like the patterns you're getting, are they personal patterns that you're developing over time, um, uh, personal understandings, or are they more just objective understandings that you're just adding to your toolkit one after another? Like, do you see yourself consolidating things together, or?
Yeah, I see myself like saying, oh, well, I got this from this book and this from this book, and they're similar in this way, looking at the same thing from these two different sides. And so I can use that to get a more thorough understanding of what it is that they're trying to explain.
That's more consistent with NI.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We've discovered David Chan can be wrong.
No. Yeah. Then we know they can be wrong. But yeah. It'll take a little bit to completely confirm it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you if someone insults one of your understandings, is it personal to you?
Yes, I would say. If it's something that I have owned, that I've read about and applied in my own life,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody says, "Oh, that's wrong," or "That's crap," or whatever, I get.
What you said, if it's something I've owned, so owning it, it's organizing it basically is what you mean by owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about definitions? What do you think about definitions and defining things?
I like it.
Yeah.
Like I said, Myers-Briggs wasn't very interesting to me at the beginning because the definitions were so loose. I just didn't feel like you could grasp onto anything. And that's one of the things I've really liked about OP, is that the definitions are a bit more solid, that you can sort of get a handle on it. I also, like from the self-help books, if there's a definition that I really like, I will take that and I will use that definition. I'll share that definition with people, and sometimes I'll even be like, oh, well, I disagree with how you're using this word because, and I've gotten into back and forth with a few people because our definitions of a certain word or whatever didn't match.
Interesting. That's a little bit more consistent with SI then as well. Interesting. Okay. What would be more important to you, getting the right definition or the right understanding?
Probably the right understanding. A definition, I think, is more to help everybody be on the same page, to help so that the communication can go better.
Right.
But understanding, if you're going to apply it, if you don't understand the definition, then the definition is not worth anything.
Okay. And the understanding of the definition, is that something that you work hard to achieve, or it's something that you, is it something that's personal to you? Or is it something that you think is just objective, that anyone can get that same understanding if they read the definition properly?
Oh, I think it's personal to each person.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to come to a definition with a different background, um, and a different, mental format, and they're going to take what applies and fits to their life, more so than, and it might not match with other people. But we can always go back to the definition to say, okay, well, this is what we can agree on. And the personal interpretation of that might be different. This is a funny little anecdote. I got in an argument with my husband yesterday because I like to think of the seasons as being each month. So like winter is December, January, February, spring is March, April, May. And he was going off of the like scientific, no, spring doesn't start until March 21st.
Right.
Summer doesn't start until June, such and such. And I was like, oh. And so the overlap, I was like arguing with him about the correct understanding of when each season is.
And he was going by the definition, and you were going
by the definition, the scientific definition of like, no, this is when the solstice is, so this is when it starts.
And then you were going more by like the understanding of what it means to be summer or what it means to be spring.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's more consistent with NI overall. Yeah. I find that the middle two functions sometimes are more balanced between introverted, extroverted as well. So it's hard to say NE and I for those, but yeah, I'm seeing more NI than NE, just from my useless non-knowing perspective. That yeah. Yeah. So okay, so that would make your TI double activated. Is that yeah?
TI double activated.
I think there's like a thing with your sound. It's a little quiet.
Let me see.
I'll just pause it until we get it fixed, okay? Okay, so we're back. I hope the sound is a little bit better. So we were talking about your TI. It's your main daemon, but it's double activated. Are you aware of it? Is it something that's present for you?
It is. I've been trying to decide if being a glass lizard is a good thing or a bad thing, because on one hand it means you're more balanced, but on the other hand it means that you just suck at everything. That's how I feel. Like I just suck at everything because
if it helps, I've noticed that glass lizards maybe at the beginning of their life have it a bit harder, but then as they go on, they've developed their demons a little bit quicker than others, and so they might have a little more of an advantage later in life.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Right. But anyways, are you aware of your TI? Is it something that you use often?
Yes. So one of the things is I have masculine TI, and so I do not want to be told what to do. Like, don't tell me what to do. Don't try and push me.
Tell you what to think.
Don't tell me what to think. Yeah.
Right. You'll make up your own mind. Right.
And so in that way, I am very aware of pushing back on, like, when people try to directly influence me on something that is important to me. Also, I think in one of the classes, Dave and Shan described masculine TI as sort of a, okay, but on the inside you're like, you're an idiot, shut up.
Okay. Right.
That's definitely something that I've experienced a
Yeah.
lot of.
Uh-huh.
There's also I have to be careful what I do on Facebook because I parent in one way, which might not be the normal or what's expected or what's valued by society. And so if I read something that is counter to what I'm doing with my TI, it can send me for a spin where my TI and my FE just like spiral around each other, fighting over who gets to win on what I do.
Right. Do you have an example of this that you can provide?
Screen time is a good one. It's always a big trigger for me.
What's
Uh,
screen time?
so for my kids,
Oh, okay.
how much screen time they have.
Right.
So on my TI side, I feel like if you make sure that your children aren't becoming addicted and you're watching for negative outcomes in their behavior, that I can allow more screen time. But on the FE side, society values no screen time for children.
Uh-huh.
And so when I encounter an article or somebody talking about that, I spiral
Right.
where my TI and my FE just fight in my in my mind.
And so does it feel in that case that your TI is like a demon? Like it's something that's negative?
Um, in that case, my FE feels negative because I'm
Right.
like, I just want to do what I want to do. Can you leave me alone?
Yeah.
For my TI, it's the result of that spiraling where my TI then turns to me and says things like, you suck, you can't do things right, you are awful, you are, a terrible person, you're a terrible parent, you shouldn't have kids, stuff like that. And
Wow.
that my TI is definitely a demon that just is constantly nagging me that I'm not good enough.
Do you do you do you feel that do you feel responsible to figure things out? Or would that responsibility lie in someone else and they should explain it to you?
Um, that depends on whether I'm being healthy or unhealthy.
Right.
Um, in my unhealthy periods of time, I have, um, there was a period where I very consciously actually just shoved all of my decision making on other people and said, I clearly don't make a decision, so you make the decision for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, but when I'm being healthy, I understand that I have to get that understanding for myself so that I can live it correctly. If I'm living somebody else's choices, I won't be happy.
Right.
I'll I'll feel imposed on.
Do you do you doubt your own ability to figure things out?
Sometimes
Yeah.
at the moment I'm dealing with uh, something that's kind of hard for my TI, and I will sometimes hide from my sleep and consume.
Right.
If I just create enough sensory or like just enough overload that I don't have to deal with what I need to deal with. But right now, um, I understand that I need to do the sleep work, and I can't have other people tell me what to believe or what things mean or what, because it has to be my responsibility. I have to be able to do it on my own,
Mm-hmm.
or else it will, explode in the future.
Do you get those tidal waves? Do you get some tidal waves? Are you noticing them in your life, or have they happened in the past?
Yeah. Um, TI tidal waves of like, I don't even know who I am.
Uh,
Or you know, if something really big comes along that threatens my sense of identity, then it's, I don't even know who I am without this thing, or because
Right.
this, I don't know. And
Like
then on
something
the,
that you thought was true for a while, and then all of a sudden you find out that it wasn't true.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Or it wasn't true in exactly the way that I believed it to be true.
Okay. And then it just knocks you out, and you got to take a few moments to recuperate or something. Uh-huh.
It just, the last time it happened, I hate this example because I think on one hand it's relatable, but on the other hand, I think it's stupid. But it was a really big deal to me.
Okay.
Uh, in high school, I didn't make it into the madrigals choir,
Okay.
the like elite choir, and music and singing has been a huge part of my identity for my entire life, and
Okay.
that,
So MF, I guess you were saying MF. So that goes the audio there.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, definitely audio. I have another thing I can come back to on that one, um, but not making it into madrigals, it took me years to be able to reconcile that. And part of that was because I was running away. I was telling other people what to tell me what to do. I was not wanting to put in the TI work to reconcile what had happened with myself.
Uh-huh. Like you didn't feel good enough, sort of thing, after that.
Yeah, I felt like it was a lie and I wasn't good enough. And so I
Uh-huh.
couldn't trust anybody because this thing happened that proved I wasn't good enough.
Right. Okay.
On the
And
audio,
the
just
sensory.
an interesting thing is I know Russian,
Okay.
and one of the things that happened when I was in Russia was I didn't know much Russian at the time, and people would start talking to me really fast because I had picked up on the audio and was able to have a very good accent for a
Uh-huh.
foreigner. And so people assumed that I knew more Russian than I did because my audio was more accurate.
Right.
And toward the end of my time there, there were actually days where I would talk to a Russian and they would think I was Russian
Oh,
because
wow.
the accent was so good.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's not
Um,
at the time. It was
yeah.
great.
One thing I was told by another FE user, is that the greatest insult to them is saying that they were stupid, sort of thing. Is that like a big source of insecurity for you, if someone were to say that to you?
Yeah, I have. I'm kind of a techie person, and when
Right.
somebody treats me as though I can't understand something, I'm just like, no, you're the idiot. Like, you go away. You're
Right.
stupid.
Yeah, yeah. But so there you were talking about understanding was like was understanding is more like intuition, right?
Yeah. Well,
So-
understanding, know what to do or be able to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Um, is that tough to take when someone insults your ability to understand something, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. Mhm.
Do you feel responsible to understand things
Yeah.
or to
I
know
think.
things?
I mean, what's knowing if you don't understand?
Uh-huh.
I don't.
Okay. Interesting. Do you have anything you want to promote, or any message you want to give to the tribe before we sign off?
Um, I'd say love yourself. Learn how to um, be able to live in a place where you can love yourself and others equally. It's hard, but especially for us single deciders.
Right. Yeah, when you brought up single deciders, I just remembered they've been doing a whole thing about narcissism recently. Is that something that sort of irks you as well? Someone who's a little bit narcissistic?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've got a few personal experiences with people like that that have not gone well.
right. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Janett. That's how you pronounce it. Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
You too.